I'm very proud. We have 146,000 leads, but when he asked me the question about how many were homeowners, guess what I said? I don't know.
Buyer leads are more diluted now than they've ever been. We want everything. Give us 146,000.
They're not fearful that they can't sell their home. Welcome to the HyperFast Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Keri Shull, and today we're going to take a look behind the scenes with top technologies in the real estate space to help take your business to the next level. Let's go. Hey guys, I'm here with Ryan Young with Fello, and I'm super excited to have Ryan tell you a little bit about what Fello is and how it can impact your business.
Yeah, so I appreciate it. I'm super excited to talk to you about this. Fello is focused on seller lead generation and really reconversion of your database. And so I always like to ask agents, team leaders, how many contacts do you have in your database? And I always get a really quick answer, like 5,000, 30,000. We're really proud of that. Like, I know how many contacts I have in my database. Then I ask them after that, I normally say, well, cool, how many of those are actual homeowners in your market? And the response is always like, they look at me like puzzled, like, well, how am I supposed to know that, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've always preached in running the Young team is if you want to have a listing-based business, you have to have some sort of predictability in your seller lead generation practices focus, right? So the first place to start is, well, how many homeowners are locally sitting right in front of you, right? Because we all know how to buy buyer leads, right? We can call up these third-party companies and acquire as many buyer leads as we want. But when it comes to seller lead generation, there needs to be some predictability behind it, right? And so we found that there's all these opportunities sitting in our database, but let's just focus on where they actually live and if they're actually someone that we can help them sell their home. So the principal foundation is we're gonna take your database, we're gonna start remarketing to it and moving these opportunities into a seller funnel and start incubating them, focused on seller messaging to get them to convert, to raise their hand, and then ultimately to list their home. And what we have found is we have these massive databases, but there's no intentionality behind them. And Fello is really helping optimize, create automation behind all that, and creating a ton of seller lead generation, which has been just massive for the teams we're working with.
Oh, it's crazy. So just to give perspective on how I found Fello, I'm a real estate coach, as many of you know, and a couple of the people who recently joined our coaching program, and even a few that joined me at eXp, kept bringing you up. And I'm like, man, what does everyone else know that I didn't? And then we were both busy. And recently we ran into each other, and Ryan was able to do an audit of our CRM.
Yeah.
Now, I'm very proud. We have 146,000 leads, but when he asked me the question about how many were homeowners, guess what I said?
Right.
I don't know. And
that's like the most common reaction. It's like, am I supposed to know?
I don't know. Some of them rent.
Right.
A lot of, I know there's 1,900 that have bought or sold with us one or more times before. Like, I know some categories, but that question stumped me.
Right.
And so that got my interest. And then when we were talking, you actually were able to show me how the software works and how the funnels work and how it would bring my database back. Because I think right now, guys, there's a lot of people who are focused on generating new leads for you. And most of those people, even when they say, hey, there's going to be listing leads, what happens? They end up being buyer leads, and worse yet, sometimes rentals, right? If you're doing Google local services, you spend as much time arguing about disputing the fact that it's a renter or somebody that's not in your area. So I think what's so unique about how you're approaching the business is if you talk to 10 team leaders, what's the number one thing they want more of?
Listings.
Consistently.
Listings.
Right now it's listings. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking, you know, how will that benefit me? Well, my goodness, most of you know. But you're going to get more sign calls, you're going to get more open house leads, you're going to get more listings in the neighborhood. Like, the listings will explode the rest of your business. What made you come up with this idea?
Well, so, you know, I have the Young team, which is, you know, we're a respectable team, number 15 large team in the country by Real Trends in 2023.
That's better than respectable.
Yeah, it's
like,
good.
It's
a nice business.
Pat yourself on the back.
It's a nice business. I'm very proud of it. We're a 60% listing-based business, right? And I didn't realize how uncommon that is and how many of these large teams, their business models is heavily buyer-based.
Yeah.
When I started looking at it, it started making sense. Buyer leads are just the most accessible opportunities you can get, right?
Yes.
For me, I just never built our business through that lens. And so once I saw kind of some of the strategies that we were doing to generate more seller leads, I started realizing that it was pretty universal across the entire country. And so if we build some automation, build a platform around it, stuff like that, there's a massive opportunity there to help agents, right? Something that I've found is really important is the buyer lead to seller lead conversion.
Sure.
So every buyer lead that we generate, we're always focusing on, does this person own a home, right? And if we can move them over to that seller funnel, now we have a chance to either double dip on the opportunity. And I've even seen actually some buyer leads that we've acquired, we actually don't end up helping them on the buy side, but we end up helping list their property, which is interesting, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it's like the cost per buyer lead is significantly less than the cost per seller lead.
Sure.
And so if you can actually convert the buyer lead into the seller lead, it's such a win-win, right? So that was a lot of the thesis behind Fello, was like taking the opportunities that you've already acquired, so you don't have to your point, go acquire new opportunities, and let's start focusing on reconversion.
Yes.
And I think, once again, so many people when they first start talking to us are like, I have 1,500 addresses in my database, I don't think that's enough. And it's like, we want everything. Give us 146,000 and let us start reconverting all of those into potential sellers. Look, I think 36% of buyers are first-time home buyers, which means that 64% of them either own a home or have owned a home. And so if you think about the logic behind the buyer opportunities that are sitting there are actually homeowners, potential sellers, and what we have found, especially in the current market that we're in, because market is a little tight right now, there's very little inventory, very few people want to actually sell their house before they buy their new home. Mm-hmm. And so what they do is homeowners are disguising themselves as buyers because they're looking online, they're clicking on more information about this property, but they own their home that they're in, right? And so what we're finding is the leading indicator is the buyer lead, which is really the lagging indicator for a potential seller, a listing. And once again, the platform automates all of it.
That's also, what you just said is really important to just double down on, because it's why it's getting harder and harder and more expensive to generate the listing lead, because people are, in general, in my market at least, and most of yours, they're not fearful that they can't sell their home. They're fearful, can I find the home that I want to buy? And so if you're trying to snag that person with a message about a home evaluation, that's not where their head is. Right? So I love what you've done, because you've just flipped the script and enabled us to have the opportunities on the list side, which is what most agents will door knock for, right? They'll do anything
They'll do anything for. And here's what's also interesting is, this is just my own, call it personal philosophy on the buy side, I do feel like buyer leads are more diluted now than they've ever been, right? And what I mean by that is, if I'm acquiring a brand new buyer lead, what is the chance that in reality that buyer lead is not already in someone else's database or in 10 other agents' database, right? It's highly unlikely.
Very unlikely.
So the conversions essentially are going down, the leads are diluted, the cost per lead is going up. And on top of that, there's really few homes to actually sell those buyers. So we're spending more money to get a lower converting opportunity, and to do what with it? It's to go show them 8 houses, losing multiples. So it's like, if we can focus our energy on seller lead generation, it's massive. And then, with Fello 2.0, something that was really important to us was getting the data into the hands of the agents. What we do is we track every single address in your database every day. And I want to notify you if any of those addresses go live on market or sell off market, whether they list with you or list without you. It starts to become pretty eye-opening when you see the amount of opportunities that are actually listing without us, and we had no idea. And that's where
when you showed me this, just so you guys understand, every year I have my team audit. And so they go through and they look up every address for every listing appointment that we went on, and they come back to me with a report. About 3 weeks ago, they started that process for the last quarter. And then we met, And I saw that it was completely automated. I'm like, wow, that's going to save so much time.
The entire thing.
And instead of waiting to give the feedback till the end of the year, think about this. If you have a team, how powerful it is.
Real time.
You're able to coach real time to the opportunities and show the agents how to take every ounce of gold that you're giving them seriously. So I think it's an incredible product. Why don't we actually show a little video behind the scenes so they can see the inside and how it works.
Yep, I'd love that.
And once we show them that, if they're interested in talking to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can go to HyPhello.com, which is Fello, FELLO.com, or they can just send me an email, Ryan@HyPhello.com.
Awesome.
And obviously, we are so grateful for our relationship and partnership with you. I would highly recommend to the viewers, reach out to you first, get your take from it. It's one of those things, like you're using it in real time. I've always found that when people have been, just like you said, I heard coaching clients, stuff like that, when it comes with some, awareness and credibility behind it, it all of a sudden there's just this more informed part of this process, and I find like a better relationship.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to sell because you have people who have results saying, hey, I'm getting results.
And the last thing I want to do is sell. I just want to talk about pain points in people's businesses. Like, ironically, I didn't know about that. You guys do the audit, which I love. We do the same thing. And it is brutal when you get it at the end of the year, retroactively.
Yes.
And it's hard to go back to your team members and be like, what happened on this one from 7 months ago?
Because they don't remember.
It's like, well, I think that one was the one they listed with their cousin. Or no, maybe that was the one where they listed with the person that did it for % less or whatever it is. In real time, you can do an audit, which is going to make them so much better. It's going to increase conversion. It's going to increase ROI. It's going to increase profitability. And that's what's most important to me,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for adding so much value to the real estate community, because I want listings, and so I'm excited to have more and more of them. And guys, I hope you got a lot out of that and enjoyed taking a look at the technology. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the HyperFast Agent Podcast, where we're dedicated to taking your life and business to the next level. Do me a favor and hit the like button below and add a comment. One thing you took from this episode. Did you like the technology or not? And subscribe here.